Hey gang, Mark here, and it's Warrington's turn to get the SLP off-season treatment this time around, and we've got one of our old friends, Leigh Whitnall, on the show to talk about 2018 and look ahead a bit to whether 2019 will be their year. In between that, sandwiched in between, got Matt Turner on the phone from the Warrington Guardian to sort of take us through the off-season news, talk about some of the new signings and how they're settling to life at Warrington, and a couple of interesting points as well about who might be the goal kicker, and also the women's team that's launching in the championship in 2019. So that's all great stuff, so I hope you enjoyed this version of SLP Shorts. Right, so I'm delighted to go through Warrington's season with one of our favourites, Super League Pod award winner this year, Leigh Whitnall. Welcome back to Super League Pod, Leigh.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's always an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure you're going to have quite a bit of fun talking about Warrington's season, because it was overall a pretty positive one, if not quite the end results you would have wanted. But before we get to your views, let's wrap up the other bits about the predictions and what we've heard from some of the other fans. So first of all, my pre-season prediction for Warrington in 2018 was that they'd finish in 5th place. So they outdid me by one. They finished in 4th, but more than that, Warrington ended up being runner-up in both finals, so that's why it was a successful year overall. And that's represented in the first of the fan thoughts we had, which was from James Dudley, who said, "Good season overall." There you go. Tom Eckley said, "Still shaking from the loss of Matty Blythe. Was a concerning start to the season. However, as we grew into the season through the epic Wigan series, we somehow seem to have bantered our way into a grand final. Big fan of this slightly more grubby Warrington side." And then Mike Dodd said, "A great response after a disappointing 2017. Mirrored the 2016 season in getting to both finals and losing both. I hope that we don't do a Leeds and end up in this cycle of good season followed by crap season."
Well, we are in that. I think I was thinking about that myself. Like when I was thinking about my predictions well, since I've supported them, they've had rocks and diamonds seasons. So hopefully we'll break that one this time.
We'll get to your predictions later on, but we'll start with your 2018 season review, and I'm going to start with it was a rough start, wasn't it? Winning just 2 of the opening 6 rounds. Were you concerned at that stage under a new coach, new leadership, a couple of new important big signings drafted in? 2 wins out of the first 6. Was that a worry?
It was at the time. I think obviously we had such a terrible 2017, and then I was quite low at the end of that season, and then with all the appointment of a new coach, and then some players that I was quite excited about, especially Murdoch Masilla, and then Kevin Brown and Ben Curry had such good World Cups, and I think. As it got closer to February, I was sort of more and more confident, and my own predictions actually were for us to get to both finals and win the Challenge Cup and lose the grand final. So I was pretty confident. So I went to the Leeds game, the first game of the season, and it was sort of here we go again. Really, that one at least was kind of a close, a close one. And if Ryan Atkins hadn't have tried his swan dive thing, whatever that was, it could have been a very different result. But and Westwood as well sort of ran the ball in the last as close to the end when he had better options. So I could see that there was potential, but it was that same sort of one-out rugby, same no idea when you get into the last 20, and I was concerned. And then we went to Huddersfield, who were terrible in that first part of the season, and we got destroyed. They killed us in that game. I was nervous about that. I think. Looking back, I've sort of like got those 2 games at the start as being like a section of worry, and then from then on to all the way to the game against Wigan in the Challenge Cup quarter final. Actually, I think we were actually incredible. We just kissed on the dick with so many sort of like lucky things that happened. So obviously you're saying about the sort of defeats, the first 6 games, but we played in the sort of that run. We had Widnes twice. We played Wigan straight off the plane from Australia when they were at their weakest. We took our medicine against Saints like everybody else did at that time. But the whole game, although we lost it and it was disappointing, and Dec Patton got sent off and banned for 5 games or however long it was. We got that fixture played, and nobody else did that weekend. I don't think it was the Beast from the East, and that was so important that we got that played because we had that extra Challenge Cup fixture to fulfil, and I just felt that these little, even though we'd only got sort of 2 wins out of the first 6, I sort of felt there was like little bits of luck coming, and then we got Josh Charnley to replace Matty Russell, who was out, definitely the weak link in the team. You could see that, and then things just went great after that.
Yeah, the turnaround started really in earnest. The away game at Catalan, where you hammered Catalan in round 6, and then kind of from then on to the Challenge Cup final, it was a pretty phenomenal run. There were the odd loss along the way, but there was only one defeat by more than one score between round 6 and that cup final. And obviously that run included the big win over Wigan in the cup quarter final as well, which made amends for that magic weekend hammering that Wigan dished out to Warrington in one of my favourite games of the year.
Yeah.
But this is about Warrington. So that run, you must have started to feel, like you say, kissed on the dick. You were being blessed with some luck maybe, but in reality you were winning games comprehensively and convincingly for most of that run building up to that Challenge Cup final. So it must have been exciting at that stage, and realising what you maybe had in some of the players you brought in.
I think the Josh Charnley thing turned it around. Like he came in, and I hated Josh Charnley when he played for you. He sort of, you just knew when he got the ball, he was going over. He was so strong, and he's such an amazing finisher. And to see him in a Warrington shirt, I had to pinch myself sometimes. It was just it was such a massive difference from Matty Russell.
He just couldn't stop scoring tries, could he, when he started out?
No, and I think him being on that side made Lynham better on the other side as well, and we were just more threatening. And don't get me wrong, in that massive run, the only game really that I can think of where we were, really dominant and looked fantastic was in that Leeds game away, the 22-33 game with the on Sky, where we were playing some really good stuff, like scything through, and that was before Leeds, proper slump was sort of.
Was that the Harvey Levett
game? I guess. That's right, yeah. Because some of the wins, like there was the one at Salford, which was scruffy. It looked like a big win, but actually it wasn't. It didn't feel as big a win during the game. But we just kept scoring, and that was brilliant. Yeah, it was fantastic. But again, you're talking about the Challenge Cup quarter final against Wigan. We were kissed on the dick again, because we got them, right as a scandal was about to break that night, and they knew it, and there was something wrong with them that day, and who knows what effect that had on them. So I definitely thought we were lucky. We were lucky with injuries. We only had Ben Curry really that I can think of, unless you count Murdoch Masilla's.
A bit of time, didn't he? But he kind of. Toby King was a more than able replacement.
Absolutely, yeah. He's tore his bicep, didn't he? But yeah, I'd
probably celebrate try that he didn't score.
Well, Atkins, he's our player and all that sort of stuff, but he makes mistakes. He doesn't pass when he's ball greedy. There's a lot about him that irritates his own fans. So it was good. Toby King's, like you say, a more than able replacement. Ben Curry's irreplaceable as an edge runner, and that's where we're weak. We could never run at gaps. it's so frustrating. Like Jack Hughes is very flat-footed when he gets the ball, and Ben Curry makes such a big difference when he's running that edge. So that was a big miss. But other than that, apart from Ben Murdoch-Masilia's fatness, which I don't know whether you can call that an injury.
Just the constant extra strain that gets put on his knees, you mean?
yeah. We were very, very lucky. So it was a good time. I was feeling confident, to be honest with you. I really thought we were going to win the Challenge Cup. I just felt it, and all the way through the season, really. And that was the thing that I was most looking forward to, the thought of like getting to Wembley.
And you had the semi-final where you absolutely battered Leeds to follow on from that game against Wigan, and then the big wait until the final. At the final, let's talk about that. That's probably the first of the two major disappointments then that we need to cover. How did you feel about the final? Did you feel maybe they didn't turn up as you expected? Was it the right result?
Yes to both of those. We were shit, absolutely shit, and it was such a disappointment. We went down. There was quite a few of us went down in a couple of cars, and we were talking in the services, sort of at Watford or wherever, and we were so confident, all of us. We thought that we were a fitter team, and that would be better for us on the bigger pitch. And as long as we sort of kept the score pretty even, we would run away with it in the last quarter. We were so confident, and I really felt that this would have been. I'd be watching them lift the cup at the end of the game, and for them to turn up and play the way that they did, and credit to Catalan, they were absolutely brilliant, as they were in the semi-final, and I was screaming and cheering for them in the semi-final, that like all the other Warrington fans. So we got our comeuppance there, but yeah, we didn't turn up, and it was so frustrating. It's a hard trip back, that one, from London, without the victory. It's you just silence on the tube and silence in the car for ages. It was only because we found a radio station that was playing British hits from the 80s that brought me round.
Fair enough. I mean, after that disappointment, we went into the Super 8 stage of the season, and Warrington kind of, I'm not sure if tread water is the right sort of way to go about it, but basically you beat the teams that were below you, and you'd lost to the three teams that were in that top four battle when the top four was pretty much set. So after that, going into the semi-final at St Helens, who'd already beaten you 3 times in the season to that point, did you think away at Saints, was there a chance? How confident or not were you going into that game, and how did you feel after it?
I had no confidence. I actually went to the only away game that I went to all season was the Saints away, where we'd been beaten by the 40 or however many yards penalty from Richards.
Nearly 60.
So that was the only. So I was there for that, and that was a heartbreaker, and I imagined a similar situation pretty much for the entire game. Yes, I couldn't conceive of a situation where we could win that game, and then Lynham just got the ball, and it was amazing. Like I think it's just one of those moments, isn't it, that you can't actually believe it, and.
Finally a Warrington side on a big stage, taking the chances and then showing the resilience to back it up with great defence on the night.
Oh yeah, and that was the performance that I wanted to see in the Challenge Cup final. We got it in that semi-final, and it was unbelievable, fantastic, and I was literally walking on air for a few days afterwards. It was great. And it was great.
You had 7 days of joy, and then the grand final came, and we won't dwell too much on the grand final. I think lots of people from the club have come out and sort of talked about that. Basically, you didn't